Well, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. Feature attraction, 10 rounds of boxing, and presenting to you welterweights. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're very fortunate to have an outstanding boxer who really needs no introduction the world over. He's fought them all, including champions Pepino Cuevas, Wilfredo Benitez, Sugar Ray Leonard, and many, many more. Never been knocked out. Fights have been stopped on cuts. It's a pleasure to have him here on his great comeback. Very popular youngster wearing green trunks from North Hollywood. Rated number 7 in the WBC at 149, Randy Shields.
In the late 1970s and early 80s, Randy Shields was consistently ranked the number 6 welterweight in the world. His physical prime happened to coincide with the greatest era in welterweight history, as the 5 fighters ranked ahead of him were Sugar Ray Leonard, Thomas Hearns, Roberto Duran, Wilfred Benitez, and Pepino Cuevas, legends at their peak at the same time as Shields was coming up. Both of Randy's parents came from a tough background. His father, Sonny, grew up on the streets of Washington, D.C., with his own father having left the family. His mother, Jean's parents, both died young. Sonny would have over 200 amateur fights and 19 official professional fights under his own name. While in D.C., he would spar with light heavyweight champion Bob Foster before moving to California for a career as a Hollywood stuntman. Sonny would double for Audie Murphy and later work on television shows like Dukes of Hazzard, Beretta, and Hawaii Five-0 before being in the movie Friday the 13th. Sonny took tremendous pride in being not only a stuntman, but a really good one. A lot of stuntmen have to take a pill to jump out of a window, Sonny said. They have to deaden their consciousness. I won't touch pills or alcohol or cigarettes, and I've never been out of the gym. With the boxing gym set up in the backyard, Randy expressed his desire to become a fighter. But first, the father tested the son. After Randy hit the heavy bag every day for 50 minutes for 2 months, Sonny would allow Randy to compete as an amateur. Sonny would be Randy's main sparring partner in their backyard ring, with their workouts remaining forever private. Sonny was 6'2", 185 pounds, and he would impersonate the style of every fighter Randy would face. And the reasoning for keeping their workouts in their home was because they were viewed as outsiders to whatever local gym they would attend. Most of the fighters around Los Angeles are Mexicans, and they stick together, Sonny said. You whip one of them in the gym, and you have trouble getting out. Randy would have his first amateur fight at age 13, eventually competing over 92 times. His boxing endeavors would become known around his high school, and he was challenged to a fight one day by a 16-year-old, 140-pound junior. The young blonde man told the 115-pound Shields that he wanted to fight him, and Randy responded, okay, before his mother, Jean, drove up to the parking lot. Randy said, Mom, this boy wants to fight me. His mother replied, okay, what time? Let me write down the address for you. The young man was taken aback, but arrived at Randy's home and received what he later would call an indoctrination. The young man's name was Joe Goosen, and he would go on to become one of the premier trainers in the sport. On May 12, 1973, Shields would defeat future legend Sugar Ray Leonard in the National AAU Championships. In the final minute of the bout, Shields staggered Leonard and forced him to spit out his mouthpiece. 8 months later, Shields would turn professional, facing Mexican foes for 18 of his first 25 fights and getting booed every time by the predominantly Mexican crowd. He would suffer back-to-back losses against the up-and-coming Vicente Mijares in 1976, but would bounce back and knock out top contender Ray Lampkin in 3 rounds. Unlike other boxers, Shields had interests outside the sport, mainly writing. Every Mother's Day, he would write a poem to his mother to show his love. He worked on a collection of poems he called the Book of Love Taps. He would write one-page stories and show them off to high school friends. He was also an exercise nut. After winning one fight by a first-round knockout, he went out for a run to reward himself, and his only vice was ice cream. He saw boxing as a temporary endeavor and wanted to eventually get into the television production business. He would be introduced to director-producer Roy Huggins and had guest-starring roles on Fantasy Island and Jack Klugman's Quincy. He doubled for George Maharas in Rich Man, Poor Man and for Sylvester Stallone in the first Rocky movie. He became friends with Burt Lancaster and Joe Don Baker, who would attend his fights. Shields would get a technical draw against Pete Ranzani in 1977 when he suffered a cut early, and in the rematch, Shields would slip in the 9th round and aggravate an ankle injury, only to be stopped in the 11th, once again on cuts. In August of 1978, he would fight in Madison Square Garden against the undefeated Wilfred BENITEZ. Shields would complain of blurry vision throughout, as an unfamiliar cut man clumsily applied a coagulant over his eye. The ointment would get into his eyes and blur his vision.
This is the fight they wanted to see. A good left hand and a follow-up right by WILFREDO BENITEZ, and he has Randy Shields hurt. There are just about 30 seconds left in the round. A good combination by WILFREDO BENITEZ. It was the best 2 punches he's thrown so far in the bout. These are 2 good-looking fighters. Good right hand by Randy Shields. He landed it flush on the jaw of WILFREDO BENITEZ. Best punch he's thrown in the fight so far. WILFREDO BENITEZ with a good right hand. And he got some pretty good punches into the body before that. But that was laid him off for a few months. Good right hand by Benitez. I'm choosing one a little bit. There it is again in the right hand. What a right hand, and he rocked him with it. Benitez rocked him with that right hand. Good right hand. Strictly business up there. As a result of his hot dogging in the ring, he's not that popular with his Puerto Rican followers. Round 6. Right hand. And Shields is hurt. He was down on one knee. 8, 5, taking a straight up 8 now. 7, 8. Harold Bowers giving him a lot of time. That went up to at least 12 in that corner. And Benitez knows he's got him. He knows he's got something in front of him now that he can dispose of. And that's what he's trying to do. You've got Shields hurt and hanging on. Benitez is really pouring it on. He's trying to measure him. And if he would take just a little bit of time, he might be able to do it with one more punch. But he's just covering Shields with punches. He's stowing punches all over Randy Shields. And Shields is trying to get out. He's trying to weather the barrage. He cannot do it. Shields is taking punches to the body and to the head. And Benitez is just having a good time throwing punches. And there is the end of the round. The end of round 6. Stopped the fight, but I'll ask Harold Bauer, the referee. I don't know whether Sonny Shields stopped the fight. Who stopped the fight? The corner stopped the fight.
Less than 2 months later, Shields would be in against another undefeated fighter, only this time it was a foe he was familiar with, Sugar Ray Leonard. That's the only Leonard fight that hasn't been on television, promoter Dan Goosen said. Now why do you think Leonard didn't want that fight shown? I'll tell you why. It made him look bad. It would have exposed him. Most observers had Leonard winning 7 rounds, but every round was close. Leonard would stagger Shields in the 5th and in the final round to seal the win. Fighting Randy Shields is like fighting a shadow, Leonard said afterward. You think he's there, and he's not. Shields would regroup, stopping David Madrid before getting a title shot against Pepino Cuevas in July of 1979.
And Pepino is known as a fast starter. He doesn't fool around. He comes out here to fight. There's no feeling out in the first round for Pepino. A good left hand by Pepino. Pepino working with a left inside. Shields trying to move away now. Caught in the corner. 2 lefts to the body, a right to the body, and a left. Shields is in trouble already. Cuevas going right to work. missing a lot of them. But he scores a good left. The fans are going absolutely berserk. Shields trying to use a jab now, but he's not showing a lot of speed, and that's what he's going to need. Good right hand by Randy Shields. Randy Shields. Cuevas does not look phased. Another right, a left to the body. A left right on the nose. And Pepino is moving right into him. And Pepino stalking Randy Shields. Goes with a right and left, but Shields is scoring underneath. Two lefts to the body by Pepino Cuevas.
Golpes abajo por Pepino.
Solid left hand.
Explotó el gancho, pero parece que lo resistió Randy Shields.
Shields looks slightly stunned, but he's still fighting back. His wits are about him. Good left hook by Pepino Cuevas. Cuevas swinging wild, holding Randy behind the head. Scoring another left. Shields steps inside, gets hit with a left.
Long. And also he's a sparring partner.
Pepino getting hit with a left right there. Pepino with a right hand. Another right hand lead. Left. Shields left, right, left. We're in round number 10 of a spectacular welterweight championship fight. Pepino Cuevas is the champion. He's behind in this fight on my scorecard. Randy Shields, the challenger in green. Nobody thought Randy Shields could fight Pepino Cuevas toe-to-toe, but that's the way he's been doing it. Blood now coming from the right nostril of Pepino. The Chicago Amphitheater. And Randy Shields is still scoring punches. Pepino with a right and a left. In the beginning of this fight, Raphael, I was ready to predict every round would be Shields' last, but he's doing very well. Another three-punch combination by Shields. Scores a right, Shields scores a left. With a left hook. Cuevas with a right and a left, and Shields is holding on. Shields with another left right. Another left right by Shields. Shields with another left right. Shields is backing up Pepino Cuevas with another right.
Ahí en una esquina neutral se golpean ambos, saca la mejor parte y retrocede Pepino con una andanada de Randy Shields. Vuelve a la carga Pepino.
There it is, fans. It's on your screen and right in front of you. You decide who's winning this round in this fight. 14 seconds, 13 seconds. Is Randy Shields 10 seconds from the title or not? 2, 1, that's it. And it's now in the hands of the judges. Okay, there you have it.
The decision was controversial. People were leaving, Randy's mother Jean said. They were walking away thinking Randy won. They wouldn't believe it when the decision was announced. Cuevas is as tough as people say, Shields said after the bout, but not as awesome a puncher. Shields would remain in the welterweight division, winning 5 straight before challenging Thomas Hearns for the welterweight title in April of 1981. Shields had to take 8 shots of painkillers into his shoulder as he had tendinitis and a rotator cuff injury. Shields won the crowd, but not the fight, as the contest was stopped after 12 rounds. Losses to up-and-comers like Milton McCrory and Johnny Bumpphus followed, and Shields retired before he can be classified as a gatekeeper in the division. But 7 years after his retirement, Shields would give it another go at 154 pounds. He would get his jaw broken against journeyman Stuart Baines, and he would call it quits for good. He would focus his attention on his Hollywood aspirations, writing over 20 screenplays while hoping to produce a documentary called The Long Road Home, detailing the sad plights of boxers such as Mike Quarry. But in 1992, Shields would hit the headlines again, only this time as a robbery-foiling hero. Two men entered a restaurant where Shields was working on his screenplay, and they ordered customers to the floor. Shields, who had a permit to carry a concealed weapon, took cover, but one of the robbers spotted him and opened fire, grazing him in the thigh. Shields crawled and hid successfully in an unused back room before he heard the robbers shooting again, blowing out the windows and the ceiling. 20 customers and 10 employees remained inside, screaming in terror. Coming to their rescue, Shields came out of the room, firing, and the robbers fled into the parking lot. As they got into the getaway car, Shields shot one of the assailants in the buttock, the other in his chest and back. "I think he did the right thing," Sergeant Robert Ontiveros said afterward. "They kept saying they were going to kill somebody if they didn't get any money. I think other people's lives didn't mean anything to them." "He's a hero," Claudia Birkin, the manager of the restaurant, said. Shields would work in private security after boxing. He's married with 3 daughters and 2 grandchildren as of this recording. His final record is 41 wins with 9 losses, 1 draw, and 21 knockouts.